Here comes mantra number 7. Right, let's read the mantra. So just to note, we're still in this section 2, from mantra 4 to mantra 8, which is all about the vision of the Mahabhagavat. This is the 4th mantra in that series. And again, it's about the vision of particularly the advanced devotee, and if not the advanced devotee, at least those who have heard from advanced devotees and accept that perspective on things. So mantra 7, Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva buddh vijanata tatriko mohayat ka shoka ekatvam anupashyata. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? And we should understand that it's referring to the Mahabhagavats who actually see like that. But it's also referring to, like, particularly the Madhyamadhikaris who have heard from the Mahabhagavats, who have accepted that and who are living according to those teachings. Then they also see the living entities as spiritual sparks, at least in the sense of understanding it and accepting in principle. Not that they necessarily actually see literally, although the Uttamas do. All right, so Srila Prabhupada, let's start going through the purport, and we're going to try and go through the whole thing actually, and even go into mantra 8 maybe, but at least finish this. So except for, Prabhupada begins the purport, except for the Madhyams and the Uttamas, no one can actually see the spiritual position of the living beings. And we can just note, although Srila Prabhupada, I don't know if later on in the purport he addresses this point, but certainly here at this point he doesn't, that the Kanishtas, they're not able to see like this because they are Prakrita Bhaktas. They're materialistic devotees. Therefore, they just see people on the surface as material bodies and like that. But the Uttamas, the Mahabhagavats, they see that everyone's the eternal servant of the Lord. They see the spiritual position of the living entities, and so do the Madhyams, at least based on the instructions they've heard. The Mahabhagavats, they see, that's just how they see. They have that purified vision. So, and again, Prabhupada touches on this point about how we are qualitatively one with the Lord, just like the sparks of the fire are qualitatively one with the fire, but quantitatively they don't have the power of the heat or light of the fire. So the Mahabhagavat, Prabhupada says, he sees that oneness in that he sees everything as the energy of the Lord. Yes. And again, Prabhupada utilizes the example of the fire, heat and light, the oneness, and there's a difference. But there's also the oneness, so to see the oneness. And So let's go on to paragraph 2. This is interesting. So Prabhupada says, in this mantra, the words ekatvam anupashyata indicate that one should see the unity of all living entities from the viewpoint of the revealed scriptures. Yes, so the thing is, well, again, it's that anupashyati, anupashyata. The change of ending is just a grammatical thing, but the meaning is the same, essentially. So eka of course means one. Eka tvam anupashyata, seeing oneness from the perspective of Shastra and the instructions of the great devotees. Yeah, seeing oneness in that sense. So, as Prabhupada, so the thing is that particularly, the Mahabhagavat just sees the oneness. The Madhyam Adhikari, middle level devotee, sees the oneness from having accepted the viewpoint of scripture and of the instructions of the Acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, and the spiritual master. So Prabhupada goes into it a little bit here, this idea of oneness and difference, that we, the individual living entities, sparks of the Supreme Whole, we possess almost 80% of the known qualities of the whole. This means, this is referring to the qualities of Krishna as presented in Nectar of Devotion. You see, particularly, chapter 20, 21, and even the listing is there, and then the elaborations go on for a number of chapters, actually. So we share the quality, not all the qualities, but we share almost 80% of the qualities of the Lord. We share with the Lord. He has them and we have them. We have them in minute quantity. He has them in very great quantity. Yes. So this point is being elaborated on here in the second paragraph. And Prabhupada gives a very interesting, clear example, nice example of the sea, the salt water. If you take a drop of salt water from the ocean, you'll find that it has the quality of saltiness of the ocean to the same degree as the whole ocean. Just because it's very small, just one drop from the ocean, doesn't mean it has less salt proportionately. It has the same amount. So it's never comparable to the quantity of salt in the ocean, but it is qualitatively equal in chemical composition to the salt present in the ocean. And so the same applies to us. I've got some of the qualities of Krishna here. I didn't copy them all out. There's 64 main qualities. But here, these are some of the qualities which we share with Krishna. How about extremely pleasing when we're fixed in Krishna consciousness? As Srinivas Acharya says about the 6 Goswamis, Dira adira jana priyakaro. They were so nice. Their association was so pleasing that whether people were dhira, sober, pious people, or adhira, rascals, even criminals. They all loved the 6 Goswamis. So that is a quality that the devotees share with Krishna. And even when the devotees become advanced, they share that quality of being extremely pleasing to quite a substantial degree. And so many people become pleased with such a devotee. Effulgent. The devotees become effulgent. I've told the story before of Prabhupada in New York at the Rath Yatra, waiting for the procession to start. And there were some police around, New York police, and they're real tough characters. And they're just sort of looking around and just, passing the time. And suddenly they saw Prabhupada, or one of them saw Prabhupada. And he grabbed his colleague and said, this is New York language, "Look at that guy. He's glowing." Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada was really effulgent. Krishna's effulgent. Krishna's so effulgent that without getting his mercy, you can't see through the effulgence to see him inside. Yeah, wonderful linguist, truthful, talks pleasingly, fluent, highly learned, highly intelligent. So these are all qualities of Krishna, which he has unlimitedly. But the very advanced devotees have, to small degrees, but in very nice ways. In very, very nice ways. Aha. Okay. So yeah, second paragraph. And okay, so now that, so Prabhupada says in the purport, where is it? Oh yeah, it's right, it's in the middle of the purport. If the individual living being were equal to the Supreme Lord, both qualitatively and quantitatively, there would be no question of his being under the influence of the material energy. That's us. If we were equal in all respects, including qualitatively, then just as Krishna never falls under the influence of material nature, we also wouldn't fall. Yeah. So, so the oneness, there's the oneness in quality. Now, Prabhupada goes on. Let's see, where is it now? Yeah, it's about 2/3 of the way down that paragraph to talk about the oneness in quality, but there's another type of oneness he wants to talk about. That is oneness of interest. Oneness of interest. So the oneness of interest means that we should have the interest of Krishna in mind. How can we please Krishna? How can we serve Krishna? How can we satisfy Krishna? That's another aspect of oneness which we need to accept and we need to develop. We need to try to put it into effect. And Prabhupada gives the example of a family. Of course, nowadays it's not like it was back previously. But previously, and to some degree today still, family members, they had one interest. They all worked together for the family. And it wasn't so much like today that, as soon as someone is old enough to earn some money, he or she may, not in all cases, but in many, I did it. I just left home. I left home. Or they get married and then they leave home. That's what happens now. But in those days, traditionally, people get married and you'd have the joint family. Many uncles and aunts and grandparents and brothers and sisters and cousins and So there was a real feeling of oneness within the family. So we are members of Krishna's family, and we should cultivate that interest also. So if we do like that, then there will not be a clash of interest. This brings us on to the third paragraph, that in material life, because everybody is just, well, first of all, Prabhupada explains that we are naturally to enjoy. Ananda Mayo Byasat. Every living entity is meant for eternal enjoyment. But we get our enjoyment by giving Krishna enjoyment. So we put Krishna in the center. Yeah, that oneness we were just talking about of interest. But in material life, then each person has their own interest. Even you get like I mentioned, in a family, but even between husband and wife, they have their own interests, particularly, the more materialistic. And if things are not going so well in just between husband and wife, in terms of their interests, they'll give up the family. How often does that happen? It's extremely common. Families break up. And what is the reason? Because the members have their own interests and not the overall interest, the interest of the family in the center. So therefore there's clash. Prabhupada uses that term. There's clashing between even the family members. But for the devotees, when they put Krishna in the center, then there's no clash. There's harmony. And the famous example, which is not given here, but I'm sure you've all heard the famous example, that if you have a whole lot of stones and you're standing by some, say, a lake or a pond, and if you throw the stones so they all land in the same place, then you get the concentric waves going out. They don't clash. They're in harmony. But if you just throw the stones haphazardly, and each stone produces its own little ripples or waves, then all those waves clash and it's just a mess. Prabhupada gave that example. And Srila Prabhupada concludes this third paragraph. It's very nice. That is the highest platform of spiritual interest. And as soon as one realizes this perfect form of oneness, there can be no question of illusion, moha, or lamentation, shoka. Because we participate in the Lord's pastimes and give him pleasure. And Prabhupada mentions the rasa dance in the same paragraph 3. He mentions the rasa dance. Normally where you get a very attractive young man and a number of young women, they'll be clashing because they all want to get the young man for themselves. But the gopis with Krishna in the rasa dance, even in Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada describes how Radharani, she feels, I'm not qualified to please Krishna, but this other gopi, she's more qualified. And because she wants Krishna to be pleased, and she feels the other gopi will be able to do that better than her, she pushes the other gopi forward. You meet with Krishna. Just see, how often does this happen in material life? Don't talk about it. Oh, Krishna. All right, so now paragraph 4. We're living in a godless society. Even those who claim to be following religion are usually to quite a large degree godless. God is relevant if he gives me enjoyment, like that. So that it arises from illusion. That's one of the main defects, isn't it? It arises, godless society, civilization arises from illusion, and the result is lamentation. Yeah. Yes. And that's what's going on now. The society with the modern politicians, should I mention Donald Trump? What an unbelievable, anyway. It's just straight out of the pages of Isopanisad, actually. Straight out. So bad. Not that the next one is going to be very good, but anyway, let's not get into it. So much anxiety created. So much anxiety created in a godless, self-centered civilization. Because everyone can get crushed at any moment. Everything can just be taken away. Yeah. But so what to do? Prabhupada refers to Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Surrender to Krishna, and then you can overcome the laws of nature. Otherwise, where there's selfishness, it's just the law of material nature is there'll be frustration. So 7:14, Bhagavad Gita, Daiviyesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Darachya Mamaya Prapajante Mayam Tarantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. And Prabhupada concludes the paragraph, thus, if we wish to get rid of all sorts of illusion and anxiety and create unity out of all the diverse interests, we must bring God into all our activities, bring Krishna into the center. And this brings us to paragraph 5, that whatever we're doing, at the very least, the results must be offered to the Lord. That's more karma yoga, actually. Bhakti yoga would mean, we explained a few days ago, not just the results are offered to the Lord, but the actual activity which generates the results, that is also done as an offering to the Lord. I am doing this for Krishna. Therefore, the devotee tries to do it as nicely as possible. Yeah. So only by serving the Lord, can we perceive the Atma Bhuta, which Well, it's the same as the Brahma Bhuta interest, the spiritual interest, the spiritual interest. Aha. The spiritual interest of all living entities. So what is this Atma Bhuta or Brahma Bhuta, which is achieved by serving the Lord's interest? That's described in the Srimad Bhagavatam verse 4:30-20, and which is the same as what is described in Bhagavad Gita 18:54. I'm going to read those two verses to you. First of all, Srimad Bhagavatam 4:30-20. I'll just read the translation. Always engaging in the activities of devotional service, devotees feel ever increasingly fresh and new in all their activities. The all-knower, the supersoul within the heart of the devotee, makes everything increasingly fresh. This is known as the Brahman position by the advocates of the Absolute Truth. In such a liberated stage, Brahma Bhuta, one is never bewildered. Nor does one lament or become unnecessarily jubilant. This is due to the Brahma Bhuta situation. So you see, anyway, that's the verse from the Bhagavatam Prabhupada's referring to. Let's read the translation of Bhagavad Gita 18:54. Well, I'll read the Sanskrit too. It's such a famous verse. Brahma Bhuta prasanatma nashochati nakanchati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labate param. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He's equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Okay, right. So yeah, that's paragraph 5. And of course, there's two Atmas. The Supreme Atma is the Lord. The minute Atma is you and me. So the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Atma, is maintaining all us little Atmas because the Lord wants to get pleasure from our association. He wants to enjoy our love for him, our expressions of love. Yes. And Prabhupada talks about a material example. The father extends himself through his children and maintains them in order to derive pleasure. If the children obey the father's will, family affairs will run smoothly with one interest and a pleasing atmosphere. The same situation is transcendentally arranged in the absolute family of the Parabrahman, the Supreme Spirit. And now paragraph 6. So Prabhupada begins by pointing out that the Parabrahman is as much a person as we are. So neither he nor us are impersonal. Rather, we're full of transcendental bliss, knowledge, and life eternal. And that is our natural position, the real position of spiritual existence. And as soon as one understands that, Prabhupada explains, then we take to devotional service. We surrender to the Supreme Lord. Unfortunately, though, because the power of illusion is so great on one hand, And people have such independent attitudes, on the other hand, that, as Prabhupada refers here to, he's actually referring to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 19. Such people, the devotees who surrender to the Lord and serve him, they're rare. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying that once this realization of our position in relation to the Lord is attained, there's no longer any illusion or lamentation or the miseries of material existence or birth and death, which are all experienced in our present life. That is the information we get from this mantra of Sri Isopanisad.